Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. This is the second in our series, Regenerating Value Through Circular Economy and Coffee, presented by International Trade Center, International Coffee Organization, and the Center for Circular Economy and Coffee. Today's session is co-hosted with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, and the ACT program. And today's session is Circular Economy in African Coffee, Building the Business, Enabling Environment. For all of you today, you can use Wordly AI transcripts for live transcripts and translation. So you can scan the code or go to the link here, download on your device, on a separate device, and read the transcripts for today's session. The Center for Circular Economy and Coffee is a pre-competitive platform that is accelerating the transition to a circular economy in the coffee sector. It is founded by 6 partner organizations and is based in Turin, Italy as a nonprofit organization and supported by a global network of members. Our key pillars are to promote awareness and culture for circular economy, serving as a global hub for knowledge exchange and awareness in circular economy in the coffee sector. Secondly, to support research and capacity building for systemic change. We work to generate actionable evidence and strengthen capabilities to enable circular practices in the coffee sector. And finally, to turn knowledge into action with scalable circular impact. We're working to drive real-world implementation of circular solutions through pilot projects, innovation testing, and collaborative projects around the world. We are offering public goods and services to all of you. And in the short time since our founding, about 2.5 years ago, we've published now 4 publications that are available to each of you. The first is a collaboration with ITC, the Center for Circular Economy and International Coffee Organization, making the case for a circular economy in the coffee sector. This was a collaborative work where we work to define what is circular economy in coffee and what is the state of the practice. And with a lot of work combined with the ITC Coffee Guide Network Circular Economy Working Group. The second is perhaps our biggest publication, ICO, International Coffee Organization's flagship publication, the Coffee Development Report. And this is all on circular economy research and the state of the practice in coffee. Another publication is focused on an approach for the Kenyan coffee value chain, and this is associated with the speakers and the work that you're going to hear about today from Kiara and the ACT program. This was an initial assessment to see what are the strongest opportunities in Kenya and what can have the strongest impact in circular economy. And finally, we're pleased to be sharing our very first white paper. It has been released now and available to you. This is Behind the Brew, the Hidden Potential of Spent Coffee Grounds, looking at the research and innovation of what products can be created out of spent coffee grounds, what are case studies, and what are the compounds of spent coffee grounds that are usable in a variety of applications. So you can just go to our website and download any of these resources. So why circular economy in coffee? When we brew a cup of coffee, only between 1 to 5% of the original coffee cherry remains in our cup, and the rest is typically discarded as waste products. However, the entire coffee cherry is made out of elements with unique bioactive compounds that can be used across different industries, from cosmetics, food products, agriculture, energy, bioplastics, and more. The coffee sector generates approximately 40 million tons of this biomass globally, and if it's not treated correctly, it can become a waste management problem. But if it's utilized and valorized, it can actually be something that is regenerative to the soils, regenerative to agricultural systems, and creating new potential products. And here's just some examples of the products that some of our members of the Center for Circular Economy are making, from flowers made from spent coffee grounds, growing mushrooms, creating bioplastics for coffee cups, extracts for the cosmetic industry, compost and biochar, and other cosmetics, facial scrubs. So, without further ado, I'm happy to introduce today's moderator, Chiara Scaraggi. Chiara is a coffee value chain expert at UNIDO. Since joining in 2015, she has contributed to expanding UNIDO's portfolio across Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Malawi, and Mozambique. Her work centers on public-private partnerships, collaborating with stakeholders from the private sector, academia, international organizations, development finance institutions to design and implement programs across the African coffee value chains. As a core member of the ACT Coffee Program, Advancing Climate Resilience and Transformation in African Coffee, funded by the Italian Corporation, Chiara focuses on capacity building and skills advancement, strengthening coffee training centers and learning pathways through alliances with local institutions, private sector actors, and global platforms, empowering farming communities and value chain actors to adapt, compete, and thrive in a rapidly changing sector. UNIDO is one of the founding strategic partners of the Center for Circular Economy and Coffee, and Chiara is among our strategic advisors. We are so pleased to have you here today. Chiara, over to you.
Thanks, Catherine. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Chiara Scaraggi, UNIDO Value Chain Expert, and I'm pleased to be your session moderator for today on behalf of the ACT program. ACT, as you mentioned, stands for Advancing Climate Resilience and Transformation in African Coffee. And before we step into today's panel, allow me to give you just a sense of where this program comes from, what it does, and where it's going. ACTA is not a standalone initiative. It's the result of 10 years of UNIDO engagement in the coffee sector, hand in hand with African government, donors, development partners, and key actors from the private sector, with a track record of projects that has shaped the program that we have today. Let's speak about the impact of these projects. In Ethiopia, we established the first Africa Coffee Training Center and launched the first coffee credit line dedicated to sustainable investment and impact finance. We are proud founding members of the C4SEC, the first global center dedicated to coffee circular economy, with an initiative that was mentioned just before, piloted in Kenya. And in Mozambique, we revitalized an entire industry, proposing the country's first coffee development strategy and establishing the first coffee hub. This track record is what ACT is built on, from country-level initiative to a truly regional vision. Building on this experience, then UNIDO has been entrusted again by the Italian Corporation to launch the current initiative, a regional program conceived in strict partnership with the ICO and Inter-African Coffee Organization. Under this framework, we work across 5 East African countries, which are Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and Malawi, intended to be pilots for then scaling across the whole continent. Our approach rests on 5 pillars: the climate resilient production, strengthening value addition across the chain, supporting compliance with global and EU market standard, and driving innovation through research and knowledge sharing, all grounded in a strong commitment to a social inclusion of women and youth coffee growers. We operated through 3 different operational drivers: delivering technical assistance and capacity building, coordinating dialogue between partners and the private sector to reinforce both coffee policy and coffee diplomacy, and leveraging finance. On finance, the Italian Climate Fund is our first and most immediate entry point to unlock coffee adaptation resource for the coffee sector. but it's just the beginning because ACT is designed to address multiple streams of climate finance, bilateral, multilateral, private, as the program scales up. At the heart of our delivery and as a conveyor of several initiatives to advance coffee value at source are the coffee training centers. These are not just training facilities. They are conceived as collaborative platforms where the public and the private sector come together, where research meets the field, and where innovation is tested and transferred. TTC focus on post-harvest activities, foster domestic coffee consumption, serve as cultural and business hubs, and are designed to support entrepreneurs and innovators. Can you imagine a roastery, a tapping lab, a brewing room, and a meeting space all under one roof, all oriented toward making African coffee more competitive, more resilient, and more inclusive? This is possible. Our first coffee training center in Addis Ababa has been operational since 2021, and it's already providing the model. But building on this experience, a new generation of coffee training center is now taking shape across the region. In Ruiru, in Kenya, in Jimma, in Ethiopia, in Moshi, Tanzania, in Maputo, Mozambique, Kampala, Uganda, and Lilongwe in Malawi. So from origin to opportunity. This is what ACT is about. And today, we are glad to present a coordinated approach that ACT established in Kenya to advance coffee innovation and circularity through an ecosystem of partners and friends, whom I am about to introduce you to you. Let's start with David.
Hey, Chiara.
Yeah, David David Cheriot is the Regional Director for East and Southern Africa at the T4Impact Foundation, leading entrepreneurship and innovation program across multiple African countries. He's the business strategist, entrepreneurship educator, and venture builder with extensive experience supporting SMEs, impact enterprises, universities, and ecosystem development initiatives across Africa. David, E4Impact has been bringing together business incubation and circular economy in the coffee sector. We would like you to walk us through what this looks like in practice, the model, the key elements, and what it takes to help coffee entrepreneurs build viable circular economy businesses. Over to you.
Thank you, Chiara. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone who is listening to us. As Chiara has introduced me, I am the director for E4Impact for East and Central Africa. I actually have about 15 experience supporting ventures all across Africa in different countries. So just to give you some information about E4Impact, we actually operate in 21 African countries. We've trained more than 10,000 entrepreneurs. Approximately 70% of them have actually started businesses. And we run circular economy incubation programs in Kenya, in Uganda, in Ethiopia, in Ghana, and in Cameroon, and operating in 20 countries, but where we have centers is about 8 countries. And really, I think for us, the impact that we've had is great. With having worked with more than 60,000 smallholder farmers. You know, we had a project which was called Arabica that we had to work with 40,000 smallholder farmers in Kenya in the coffee value chain alone. About a third of the enterprises we've worked with are actually women founded and women led. And 70% of the enterprises we work with have actually succeeded, and about 30% of them have actually raised financing. So I think for me, in terms of supporting, or really our experience in supporting enterprise is recognizing what can get lost in conversations. And these are the challenges in the circular coffee. It's not about technology, because we've seen that universities can generate innovations. We've seen, for example, in Kenya, a university like called Dedan Kimathi has been researching a lot on coffee husk, biochar, mushroom substrates, spent ground cascara flour, and so on. So the science actually exists. But the problem is the 2 kilometer gap between the lab where that research is being done and a paying customer. And that's really where the gap for the incubation model exists. So in practice for us, we've seen that it's possible, and I will not talk about this slide because Catherine had spoken about the circular businesses that actually exist and the causes or the sources of what can be turned into a business. And I'll move actually to the next slide, right? So in practice, as if for impact, we've understood that we need a model that connects 5 actors simultaneously. So these 5 actors who need to be connected. And these are farmers, researchers, entrepreneurs, the market itself, and people who actually invest in the businesses or in those circular businesses. And we've seen this, and that is what we run in our E4 Impact Entrepreneurship Centers. And we have to move the entrepreneur through these 6 stages. And that is very important as we help them to build a business. So from ideation, because the entrepreneurs are coming up with ideas, to designing the model, to prototyping, development, market validation, and investment readiness, and then subsequently scaling that business. So the critical insights that we've seen is that most programs, and right now, I think all over Africa, there is a surge for incubation program. They actually stop too early. They get someone or a startup and someone who wants to build a business only to the prototyping stage and call that success. What we've learned is that for most circular startups, they actually die at the market validation stage. Not because the product that they're developing doesn't work, but because nobody has validated the demand. So build before building the supply. So the idea is really validate the demand before the supply. So in practice, our work as E4 Impact has built around five building blocks. And the first is resource mapping. And here, when we have to deal with entrepreneurs, we try to understand what resources do they have. If it's a circular practices in the coffee value chain, for example, we ask what are the byproducts that are available to them. So we start with this resource mapping. And what are the volumes of that product? And what is the acquisition cost for it? So a coffee pulp, if you have a coffee pulping facility, the opportunity could be different if you're 500 meters away from a wet mill, and the business model you have to build out of that would be different if the distance was shorter, let's say 10 kilometers, for example. And so this is important, that resource mapping. Second is technology appropriateness. And what's possible, and not what's possible in a lab, but the appropriateness of the technology that the entrepreneur needs to use, and what can run without so much sophistication, being too sophisticated with the technology, and what can be repaired locally. You know, there are so many things that exist globally and so on, but in the African context, what can the local entrepreneur use? What technology is appropriate for them? And thirdly is the business model. And here from the business model, and we've seen most of the entrepreneurs who we incubate, many times they fall in love with their own idea, but they've not thought about the market. Who will actually pay for the product they're building? What about the price? And it's important to specifically start with this business model. Who will pay? How much will they pay? What price will it be before even starting to build? And fourthly is the market access. So, and we've seen that is really important. If you can't access the market with your product, what you've done is just wasted a lot of effort and a lot of time and many times resources. I think they say that one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs have is building something no one wants or no one is willing to pay. So having a market access is important. And so having a letter of intent is more important than a lot of the market research reports most of the, let's say, young startups normally do or are required to do sometimes, or in very almost academic exercise. So naming the buyer before you build is very important. And fifthly, the right financing structure. So grants for proof of concept, we've seen those are important, and we've supported our entrepreneurs raise some grants, concessional debts for equipment, revenue-based financing. These are the new models that actually work, especially in agriculture. For working capital, equity are actually the proven model. And so as I almost come to a close, what can we do next? Having learned all this, right? So my observation is that circular coffee doesn't fail because the technology doesn't exist. It failed because we have not built enough systems around the entrepreneur. We actually need to build good systems and around the entrepreneur. And Kenya has actually done a bit of building of those systems. For example, they have mandated extended producer responsibility for packaging. That's a good system around the entrepreneur. And the policy window is open. But circular coffee enterprises need specific inclusion in the agricultural waste frameworks, and not just generic recycling legislation. We need to advocate and to make that distinction. And then we need the continuation of incubation, the entrepreneurship layer. So Africa's most successful circular startups grow faster inside ecosystems. So we actually need ecosystem that supports the entrepreneur. So incubation programs connected to mature players, donors, funds, and governments are critical. And then what we've done, let's say our model, for example, E4Impact model. So where we are able to connect the farmer, the researchers, the entrepreneur, the market investor, is the actual operating structure that can make a circular coffee business to be really investable. And we have to continue growing that pipeline of those incubated companies. And lastly is really moving it to scale. So the markets and the capital layer is important here. So stepping up waste management strategies could inject a lot of resources into the African economy. And the circular economy could really create a lot of jobs in Africa. It's estimated that it could create around 11 million jobs. And coffee is not a niche player in this. It's one of the highest concentration agricultural waste streams actually on the continent. So there's really a lot that from the coffee value chain. So I think in closing, I just want to share some practical examples of some businesses that we've built or supported, starting from zero. As in, one business is called Chepsangor Coffee, and now they have a brand that is called Toulon Coffee. It was founded by Rosbella Langat. She actually came into a program when she was thinking, what could I do? I'm almost reaching retirement. I think I've had experience doing a lot of sales globally, but I think I could invest into the coffee value chain. And she, with our support, she created a women-led specialty coffee enterprise that works directly with smallholder farmers in communities where much of the picking and planting is actually being done by women. And the company has built a processing factory right now. It has invested in an eco pulper for sustainability wet milling, and it's selling its products globally. The second company I want to speak about is a company we actually recently supported. It's called Sumseron Coffee, and it's a specialty coffee company, and which is also a family business. And it's founded by a guy called Serone, who has built the mission of the company using coffee as a tool for social and economic change. Today, this Sumseron Coffee has established export networks. We actually paid for him to go to the US, and he actually managed to sign a big contract supplying premium coffee abroad. And so we strengthened their export readiness, link them to international market, and they actually signed a contract by the time they were coming back from this visit a month ago. And lastly is a company that we actually, as E4Impact, we've invested on. It's called Edmax Coffee. And we made an investment into this company with a convertible note to them. And with this funding that we actually provided to them, they are solarizing their farm operations and getting into regenerative farming practices and directly supporting the local market expansion. So today, as we speak, Edmark's coffee is available in about 50 retail outlets in Kenya, and that's why we made an investment into those business. And I think this is what companies need, right? Direct investment, market links, and support actually to create the brand. So I would say that really these are the most important work that we've done, and we have really good evidence to show that incubation really works and can create strong companies in the coffee value chain.
Thanks a lot, David. Thanks a lot. I think that from your presentation, we get it that many entrepreneurs understand the concept of circularity, and that they are supported by organization and incubator like you to turn this concept into real business line. But on a systemic, in a systemic framework, what is the one thing that the incubation program most need to do better in bridging this gap? And in the longer term, what changes in the system would make the biggest difference for circular economy business in Africa, coffee, to truly grow and scale?
Great. Really, that's Chiara, that's a question I care about the most. So let me give you a direct answer to it. And so the one thing incubation programs most need to do better is to stop graduating entrepreneurs who have a product or who have an MVP, but really to graduate a business. That is the most important thing they must do. And I think as E4 Impact, from our experience, we are very good at helping people make things, or a lot of other incubation programs are very good at helping people make things, but we're not good enough in forcing them to answer some questions before they invest into the business. Can this generate positive margin, for example? The second one, does the business plan contain a month-to-month cash flow? Because a lot of the businesses that we've seen in Africa cannot sustain their cash flow, so they run out of bandwidth very quickly. And so that is experience that we have. And speaking about the circular coffee enterprises, they fail, and you've said it, not because they don't have the product, or that the product is wrong, or the market doesn't exist. They fail because their entrepreneurs really run out of cash, and we don't want them to run out of cash. So supporting the entrepreneur linked to the market is most important, ensuring that they have a viable business. And I think that's a thing that incubators need to do. And so first, for circular coffee business, byproducts need to be named explicitly in agricultural. So anyway, before going to the long term and the policy, I think really is to build a viable business, not just graduate a pitch. And for me, that's the most important thing that incubators can do. For long-term sustainability, there has to be issues around policy. So and one thing, for example, is within the circular value chain of coffee, we need to explicitly name agricultural waste policy and develop such frameworks. So policies around waste and really support that. So a lot of African governments have generic recycling legislation. It's still very generic and does not distinguish between, for example, spent ground cosmetic business from a waste plastic company and so on. So it's all mixed together as a circular business. So we need specific policy recognition by actors on the byproducts of coffee. This is one. Second is the offtake problem must be solved at an ecosystem level. We need to solve this offtake problem. So right now, each entrepreneur tries to find their own buyers. So there is no good links to the market and to the buyers. So we need sector level demand aggregators, bodies that pre-negotiate purchase commitments for entrepreneurs, maybe with hotels, hospitals, schools, and institutions. And that is needed. And thirdly, we need investment instruments that must match the revenue profile of circular business. I have seen that. I gave you the example of EdMax. As in, if we don't have appropriate financing instruments that are supporting the business, it's very hard to grow. So these businesses, especially in the coffee, are normally seasonal, and cash flows are tied to harvest cycles, right? And long development periods. So we need really appropriate instruments. So revenue-based finance, concessional debts, blended DFIs, commercial structures. Those are the ones that we need. And on top of that, of those, I really want to underline, and I know that one of the speaker will speak here, right? The Coffee Research Institute and the work UNIDO has actually done to create a center. And we've infused our center with all these sustainability aspects. And you're doing this across Africa. So you establish one here, one in Ethiopia, and stuff like that. We need these centers that are actually physical structures where entrepreneurs can be able to get support from. And I think the other thing we need is actually permanent homes for entrepreneurs, for coffee entrepreneurs. A case in point is the E4 Impact Incubation and Acceleration Centers. As in, I think UNIDO has also co-invested in such centers, and we've worked together with you. If you come to Nairobi, you go to Ethiopia, you go to Ghana, you'll find those centers where an entrepreneur can go and find people who are, let's say, can handhold them to make sure that the business succeeds. So this is what I would say, Kiara.
Thanks a lot. It's already really, really interesting, and you paved the way for all the other speakers also to connect and to build upon what you already showed us. Thanks a lot. Very inspiring. And talking about Coffee Training Center and the institutions that have to lead them to be also future-proof. Let me give the floor to Dr. Emmanuel Mutinda Kimeu, Senior Research Scientist at the Coffee Research Institute and the Principal at the Kenya Coffee College. With 29 years of experience, he specializes in training, curriculum development, and advisory services on best agricultural practice, value addition, and circular economy in coffee. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Horticulture, an MBA in Strategic Management, and is pursuing also a PhD in entrepreneurship at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agricultural and Technology. Dr. Emmanuel, thanks for being with us. Thanks for being with us. Let me just thanks a lot. Let me just introduce you the topic of your presentation, because the Coffee Research Institute in Kenya, where you work, is growing currently into something bigger, a training center for value addition, a place meant for skill, innovation, and circular economy experimentation. Please tell us how this is taking shape, how farmers and coffee practitioners are getting involved, and what is the vision for the first coffee circular economy lab in Kenya? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Kiara, and good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Yes, my name is Emmanuel. I work for Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, Coffee Research Institute. I am a research scientist. We do a lot in training of farmers on the research findings. And in particular, we work with the cooperative societies and estate farmers. And most of our work is on the ground at the cooperative societies. And also, we also offer residential training at the Coffee Research Institute, RIRO. Yes, I want to thank UNIDO and the Italian government for the work they are doing with us. The last 2 years, we've been having some discussions on how to upgrade the issue of circular economy and value addition. And this has worked out very well. And out of the needs of the farmers and the stakeholders in Kenya, especially in the area of value addition and circular economy, we've been able to make some very good progress. The works that are going at our place in developing the coffee training center is progressing on very well. And at the moment, we have done almost 65%. And we are hopeful that before the end of the year, the center will be up and running. So we've been having this initiative of circular economy in coffee in Kenya, though it has not been that active in the last, let's say, around 3 years. Farmers have been practicing circular economy initiatives in their farms, especially in composting. But of late, when this initiative came up through UNIDO, we were able to sensitize the farmers, and we are seeing quite a lot coming up. Now, through this initiative of UNIDO and the International Circular Economy Center, we were able to come up with partnership and to set up the first hub, circular economy hub at our college. And when we set this center, this hub, we were able to do some training of TOTs, and we were able to train up to 34 trainers, TOTs, from 9 counties across the country. And the target was coffee societies, universities, members of staff from CRI and the Kenya Coffee Platform, NGOs, estate farmers, and youths. And the modules that were covered during that training was cascara production, combusting using black soldier fly, biochar production, mushroom production, and we were able to visit a farm that is implementing circular economy practices within Kiambu County. And what we have seen out of that is that the farmers are really picking up these initiatives, and the setup that we came up with, the hub at the CRI, we developed, we came up with a black soldier fly unit where combusting of coffee pulp is achieved through use of the black soldier flies. And we're also doing from vermicomposting. We have that unit which is running. And then we also have the mushroom production unit and the biochar making unit. And all this, what we have experienced from that time, because we have been handling quite a lot of trainings from that time, farmers are really getting interested. In case point, a point in case is a training that we had some 3 weeks ago, where we hosted about 20 participants from all over the country. And we were able to take them through the training. We were able to train them on how to combust using black soldier flies, and also how to do mushroom production using coffee pulp as a substrate. And this was very interesting because a good number of these people are doing mushroom farming, but the problem that they have been facing is the source of substrate. So they are seeing a big opportunity in this area. Then there's also the cascara production, where we did some training at the Dedan University, Kimathi University, and we were able to be taken through on how to do cascara production. Then biochar production is also a very interesting topic, where we can be able to make soil conditioning materials. Farmers have been doing it in their farms where they do the normal charcoal, but out of this training that we are doing through these innovative ways of technical preparation of biochar, they are really getting interested, and they are seeing it as a chance of really getting into ways of improving their soil. The other thing that we also did, again, is another training that we did using the same hub. And in this case, we also trained farmers. That was on 27th April. And the participants, 20 of them were from different parts of the country. And we took them through all these processes. And we have seen since that time, the farmers and the participants who came for the training I've really been calling and asking some questions, because some of them have even gone to an extent of setting their units to really get benefits from these initiatives. And we're also getting inquiries from other stakeholders on how we can also train them, and especially the youth, because this one is a big opportunity for youth to really get engaged in the coffee sector. Now, so in Kenya, we have these business innovations, that is circular economy in coffee practices, and there are opportunities that can be utilized, and especially by the youth. And one of them is composting of the coffee pulp together with farm vegetation and weeds. Now, in Kenya, we have some farmers who are coming up doing organic farming. And what they're lacking is organic fertilizers, organic materials. And those who are now doing organic farming and they have been certified, majority of them are now doing composting of the coffee pulp. Plus, because they are not supposed to use herbicides, they are harvesting the weeds and mixing with the coffee pulp, and this they're able to apply into their farms. As a business opportunity, the same compost can be sold, and also the effective microorganisms which we use to activate the process of composting can also be a source of income, especially for the youth. And also the services. In fact, the biggest opportunity in this composting is the service provision. NEMA is really very strict on issues of waste management at the cooperatives. And a lot of now cooperatives are looking on how they can dispose of their waste. And one of the ways is this bit of composting, and we are seeing that being a business opportunity where those who are trained on circular economic practices can be engaged in providing services to the cooperative societies to compost these materials, and the same composted material can be provided to the farmers for soil fertility management. The other opportunity is in vermicomposting, where we use worms. We use worms. We started with a kilo of worms, that was last year, but now we have been able to go beyond 60 kilos, and we have been selling, giving these ones to farmers. And what we are telling them is you can multiply these worms and sell to other farmers, including the vermi that is generated from the vermicomposting process. Then the other opportunity that is also being practiced by the farmers, and also we are also promoting, is the intercropping with the leguminous plant species, whereby this species will mine nutrients from the soil, and these nutrients will be utilized by the plants, and after they drop the litter, the same is used as mulch and is also recycled, and the same nutrients can be utilized by the coffee trees. Then mulching is also a practice that we are also promoting. Then integrated crop and livestock management, whereby we know in most of the coffee growing areas, because of the high rainfall pattern, plus also the weeds, management of this weed has been a big problem. Farmers have been using herbicides, but because now there is a big push from the consumers and also NEMA, we are discouraging the use of the herbicides, and therefore we are promoting the use of livestock. We have a good number of farmers who are using sheep to feed on the weeds. Out of that, the farmers are able to get manure. They're also able to sell the animals and get some incomes. Then the other area is in the area of source of energy, whereby there is the bit of biogas and also sale of briquettes, which are sourced from coffee husk. Can we move on? Hello, can we? Yes. Then the other innovations and value addition initiatives that we are talking, these are just illustrations of what we are doing. A case in point is the effective microorganism, which is being used by most of the societies to compost the coffee pulp. And what is happening in the societies that are very active and compliant to the NEMA, we have farmers meeting like in one day. They harvest all the materials within the wet mill premises, mix that with the coffee pulp, apply the effective microorganism, and they are able to get very well composted manure in a span of 2.5 months. There is also the bit of use of the coffee pulp in production of biogas. A good number of farmers, especially estate farmers, are doing this. And then the use of doba, like a case of point, we have a farmer in Kericho who has more than 50 of these sheep, and the sheep feeds on the weeds within the coffee farm. And the farmer has also done some mulching, and that way he is able to manage the weeds, and he is also able to manage the soil fertility status of the farm. So he has minimized the use of synthetic chemicals. Then we also have vermicomposting. This one is also coming up, the worms, whereby you mix the worms and the coffee pulp plus other materials, and you end up getting the vermity applied to your coffee, and you end up getting a nice crop at minimal cost. Then my key message is as an institute, we are calling upon all coffee farmers, extension officers, the youth, and other stakeholders to visit the hub at the CRI and gain hands-on skills on circular economy practices for cost reduction, income diversification, improved coffee yield and quality, and environmental sustainability. In particular, we are reaching out to the youth to take the trainings and use the gained skills to offer services and the generated products to farmers at a fee. Of course, this will enhance youth employment and involvement in the coffee value chain. To our regional and global friends, let's work as a team to develop and promote circular economy practices in the coffee value chain for sustainable production, clean environment, improved livelihoods, and youth involvement in the coffee value chain. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Emanuel Asante Sana. And thanks for bringing us the live experience from Ruiru, from the Coffee Research Institute, which is positioned has a really focal point and is set to work as a collaborative platform, not only for research, but also for experimentation and co-creation. How do you envision private coffee entrepreneurs and practitioners getting involved? And what it look like for someone to bring an idea to the Coffee Research Institute and the future Coffee Training Center, which is now under development, and just develop this idea and build it with your team and with the ecosystem of partner we are presenting it today.
Thank you very much, Kiara, for the question. Yes, at the moment and in the past, we have been working with the private sector. In fact, most of the partners we are working with are from the private sector. And when we are doing our research work, we really get a lot of support from the private sector. And like now, the issues I'm talking about in organic coffee production, where we have been supporting farmers to get certified organically, and also looking for non-synthetic fertilizer materials. Most of the people we have been working with, almost 70% are from the private sector. Because the same private sector, they are the ones who are coming up with the products that can be used like in organic farming. Now, the center that we are developing again, this will be open to every stakeholder. As I told you before, CRI is the focal point of the coffee subsector in Kenya. And we work with all stakeholders. Most of them are I would say, because the private sector, again, they don't have much protocols in reaching out or even making decisions. So we like working with them. And the center that we are developing, we will be open to everyone so that they can bring their ideas, we can exchange ideas, and that will really grow our research initiatives. Because again, the cooperatives, they have a bit of bureaucracy, some bit of it, but more in most cases, we find the private sector really being very open to work with, and we are opening doors for everyone to work with us, including the use of the equipment that will be available at our center. Yes.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I think more questions will then arise while the presentation and the webinar goes on. But let me give the floor to my friend Sandra Ndichu, platform coordinator of the Kenya Coffee Platform. Sandra oversees multiple projects under the GCP, Collective Action in Kenya. As the final reporting officer to the Kenya Coffee Platform Board, she drives collaborative efforts across the coffee sector to advance sustainability, productivity, and farmers' livelihood in Kenya coffee industry. And she's passionate about bridging the gap between innovation and practice. Sandra, you are also talking today as part of the Kenya Coffee Platform, but also as a beneficiary of the recent training that have been developed by C4SEC, E4Impact within the Coffee Training Center under the Coffee Research Institute in Ruiru. So we would like to hear from you, and we ask you to share with us how also this local experience connects with your experience within the global coffee platform, and how this collective approach, this global framework, is shaping what's happening in Kenya. So, what the circular economy training has shown to you so far? Which practice are gaining traction in your view, and how the platform in Kenya, but connected to the global one, is connecting these different efforts? Over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Clara. First of all, a fun fact is we are celebrating 10 years of collective action at GCP. So this question is very timely. And I think first off to say is that Kenya Coffee Platform is a stakeholder platform. So we have stakeholders from the national government, county government, and then the producer organizations themselves, civil societies, and development partners. And because of this coalition of such a strong coalition of stakeholders at the Kenya Coffee Platform, and by extension the Global Coffee Platform, we have a very unique advantage of having a bird's eye view on interventions and different trainings and different partner approaches to solving key issues like circularity. And the interesting thing was when we were invited to participate in this training, we quickly jumped on it because we value, of course, Coffee Research Institute. And when we found out about this training, we wanted to be part of it to learn. Because, of course, we want, at a global level, you'll notice that there's a bigger conversation on regenerative agriculture, and that topic is really key for us. And we wanted to know how much more we could benefit by learning about local practices that we could integrate. And this is important because we work with so many partners on the ground, and you find that what we try to do as the Kenya Coffee Platform is to minimize duplication of efforts and, of course, share learnings widely. This enables partners to then be able to make effective choices on resource management and where to best establish interventions. For example, I'll reference our work with different partners. You find with Shelin, we are working with partners and producers in Kiambu and Embu. With Musuli, and that's Rainforest Alliance, we are working with producers in Kirinyaga and Embu. And what happens in such a scenario is as a coffee platform, we bring all the partners, and because we are targeting the same stakeholder or producer at this point, and we bring them together and we then share what the interventions, and the interventions then start speaking to each other. And we find that resources are very effectively used and information is shared. But I'll right away start by saying, and I'll just continue with what Dr. Kimei was saying, the practices that are gaining traction. First of all, for us at KCP, we realized that we could integrate what we're learning at CRI with already the practices that we were teaching on the ground. So we had a project, and we have a project with AgriChains in Odaya, and immediately we could see where we could merge the two. So our key objective is to increase income for the producer. And also, how can we increase production? That was the question we wanted to answer. But when we went for the training, we realized there are multiple ways where we could also increase income and still remain within the value chain. And what was exciting for us was to see we could use what was traditionally used as waste as an income generating venture. And for us personally at the Kenya Coffee Platform, we were so excited because there are issues that, constantly plague producers, and there are land issues here in Kenya. Succession is such a big conversation. And we were also facing, everyone talks about innovation and how to be innovative, but how to practically be innovative in a structured way was missing. And this answered very key questions for us. How can we get the youth involved? How can we get them excited? We are really talking about a limited resource. We're in the coffee value chain. Their parents are in the coffee value chain. You want to integrate the youth. How are you going to do this without bringing conflict, make it seamless and harmonious? And what we learned at the training center answered those questions. And a topic that's close to my heart is women. And my worry was, are we going to learn about another intervention that is already going to step into the time that they have? And you find that women have limited time to do a variety of activities. And it was very key for us to learn about activities that would not then add to the burden of time, but would then flow seamlessly with whatever was happening. And when you go straight to my next slide, you'll see, I put a couple of pictures. So my colleague Josephine is very carefully sieving biochar, and it was very, very important for us to have a hands-on experience so that we could transfer this to producers. I'm seeing Mr. Kiama, who was also on Dr. Kimeo's slide with the mushroom. And the third slide is one of our most interesting intervention to me, which was the BSF lava, which was high protein, and learning what it could do for the soil and how it could, make compost more enriched was very interesting. So, and we can move on. I saw the next slide. So, right when we were working with AgriChains and we are talking to the management, we had a very unique opportunity because we are talking about the milling section, the value addition section, and the producers on the ground. So when we were learning about mushroom cultivation and we found that we could use the coffee husks for more than energy production right off the bat, we could see how we can easily now open a new revenue stream. And Dr. Kime was saying that part of the problem is getting hold of the substrate and the components for maybe the substrate for mushrooms. And in Odaya, the substrate was ready. It was coming straight from the mill. And this was, a byproduct that maybe would have been sold for briquettes or something else. But now we found a new use for it, where we could also incorporate the youth. And they could get this substrate and the coffee husk and from the roastery as well, probably for no cost. Take this substrate and start a mushroom business. And most of the master trainers that we have are very young. And you can imagine how exciting this is going to be for them because they are, apart from what we are training them in conjunction with CRI, because CRI is the trainer on the ground, we are showing them how they can make more money with a component that is readily available. And then the fact that it needed very little space, it's now easy for the youth to go back to their parents and tell them, we don't have to fight over the land. I don't need my own trees now. I can maybe go into business on the existing land and then earn more field from the same land that they have. So I think the other one that was very interesting was the BSF farming. They're not the most attractive item in the world, as you can tell, but they are so useful. And as Dr. Kimel said, the producers are involved in other activities like livestock farming, poultry keeping. And with this intervention, we were answering three questions at once. We are increasing income, we are providing feed. And for women, what does that mean? You can make your own feed at home. So you're saving time, you don't have to go buy it, you can just make it in the house. It's also efficiently using the resources that you have. And that was so key and so important for us. So when you look at all the other projects that we are running with partners, beekeeping, with Ipsia and the Cafe Correcto, avocado, and dairy farming with Musuli, you now have an additional component. Then you can introduce to the producers without taxing them. You're using the same items that they have readily available to then accelerate a new revenue stream for them. And this was super exciting. And I'll move on to the next slide. So as I mentioned, what struck us most was I resonated with the reduced turnover time. Avocado and macadamia will take a year or two to produce fruit. But with mushrooms, you're talking about 10 to 15 days. And then you can immediately go to market. And this was exciting. So it takes 3 to 4 cycles, but you can imagine, as opposed to planting an avocado seedling, you can just have mushroom in a small area, and then you can take that to market. And what does that mean for the youth? They are young, they might not have the patience to wait for harvest and so on, but immediately you can have something that they're getting some money back. And I've realized when they see results, their interest is piqued and it's retained. And for the women, that means some more extra money in their pockets, which helps with a little more better decision making and easier decision making, and just overall, just the conversation in the household just changes with more income. It's now they think about what is the next thing to invest in. And on this slide, I put immediate hindrances, which is something we are encountering practically. Me and my colleagues, my program manager at the GCP level and the senior manager of partnerships is going to receive this write-up where these are exciting ideas. We might not have a budget to supplement startup, but can we have these conversations with the producers? Are they able to then support? And this becomes a very interesting conversation because you understand that always resources are a very sensitive topic, and you always want to see how to reduce this burden when it comes to a new intervention. And then the most curious one, when you think about the area and the diet and the staple foods, was market linkages. I can tell you, in Odaya, mushrooms is not something that they're used to. The traditional food is not, it's not something that they know. So you then want to balance between expectation. Will the target market absorb the product, even though now it's readily available? But from what we learned from CRI and the benefits and the health benefits and what it could bring, we know with proper practical training. And I'll answer one of the questions that you posed to the panelists. What's the practical, how can we bridge this gap between the hindrances that I'm mentioning and adoption of these practices? And one of the things we've noticed, and we are really thinking around, is having pilot projects. Pilot projects where they can practically see benefits and practically see growth, and it's done in real time. So, and this was one of the approaches that CRI used that stuck with us. They took us to the field. We saw, we touched, we interacted with the intervention itself, and it stuck in our minds. I dare say, even on a personal level, I might grow some mushrooms because the benefits are there. And apart from that, And we are looking into exchange programs. And I had a very interesting conversation with Mr. Peter Dambiri. I know he's in the webinar today. And he works for SMS, which is part of the ECOM group. And they've been doing these interventions practically. And as KCP, immediately we want to see how we can leverage those learnings, maybe do an exchange program where we have Odaya farmers going to the sites where they have established this learning and have CRI accompany them and see if the interest is piqued and what they could take away from that, and just see how that intervention is really, really transforming how they are doing their agricultural practices at that point. So that's the most exciting part for us as the Kenya Coffee Platform. And for me, I would say the three practices that are gaining traction is biochar, the mushroom farming, and the BSF. Those are the three for me that I immediately see adoption on the ground. So I think the one thing that I want to say is, as KCP, you'll wonder, how do we keep information sharing very consistent? And it's really just using key partners. And like all our trainings, we have them domiciled at CRI, and we have the CRI doing the training. So you have consistency of information. There's also the sustainability manual that is available on our website that you could look at, that was developed in conjunction with CRI, Coffee Directorate, and all our partners. And they came up with one harmonized agricultural practice book, which we call the Kenya Sustainability Manual. And basically, one of the key things that I do, and I know that you can tell that we talk a lot. This is really my job. Partners talk, producers talk. We just keep talking and exchanging ideas and making sure that information flows. Over to you, Kara.
Thanks a lot, Sandra. This was really interesting, and thanks for letting us hear the direct voice from a trainee's perspective and from a practitioner yourself. Let me pose you an additional question, because I know Kenya Coffee Platform has adopted a gender mainstreaming approach in all its activities, and you are a woman and a practitioner yourself. So we all can just observe that women are often mentioned in the sustainability conversation, but not always at the center. In the Kenya coffee sector, where do women have the most to gain from circular economy practice? And what would it take to make sure they are not just involved, but really leading the way? I know that this is also part of just effort that are deployed across the wider global coffee platform network. So over to you for giving your insight about that.
So, and again, GCP, our chair lady of the board and the executive director, manage our partnerships ourselves, being women, of course, as we've highlighted, we are so cognizant of the role of the woman in the value chain and what they need to play. But we, as KCP, actually share an office with the Women in Coffee here in Kenya, and it's an association of all the Kenya coffee women, entrepreneurs, traders, all stakeholders who are women. And what we've realized and what we are learning, the beauty with the interventions, and sorry to all the men who are listening, they do need a lot of care. And women can really take over because the activities are domiciled in the homestead, and that's for my producers. And women determine what goes on in a home to a very large extent. So when you talk about mushroom growing and it being part of the diet and being incorporated so that you can create a market for mushroom farming, women have to take center stage. And it's as simple as even learning, like for me, mushroom recipes. And as simplistic as that sounds, you'd be surprised about how profound that is. And I saw that with Cascara. And I reference what Dr. Kime was saying with Dedan Kimathi. Part of the research and what made Cascara easy for me even to understand under the Chelim project was the byproduct being baked goods. And immediately you can tell the target audience. We're going for the children, restaurants and bakeries, and women are heavily involved in that aspect. They just intuitively know how to cue such things. But what we are trying to do, and this is an actual proposal here, the Kenya Coffee Platform, there is an intervention by women in Kenya called Women in the Ground. So I have to say it in Kiswahili, ni wanawake mashinani. So they are taking the education to the producer on the ground. And we intend to then incorporate these teachings in those ground efforts where you're meeting the ordinary lady on the ground and sensitizing her to how she can contribute to the household budget by having an income stream that is easy, that is quick, that requires not a lot of effort as opposed to coffee pruning, harvesting. When you see the effort levels, this is a bit lower. And we are hoping that if women take it up and take the lead, which I am very sure they will, because the benefits are there for everyone to see. If they own the movement, then it's done. If they own it and they agree to it, and I as a woman have agreed to it, then we are going to see quite a revolution and a huge adoption of what we are trying to put on the ground.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for this perspective, and thanks a lot for the time you gave to us. It's now the turn of Dr. Fernando Cantao, our Agricultural and Food Security, Technology Transfer, Cooperation and Innovation Office at the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology. Fernando, you have a Master of Science in Plant Physiology and 2 PhDs in Applied Botany, Plant Physiology, Crop Science, and Biotechnology. Your work integrates plant-microbe interactions, next-generation sequencing, bioinformatics, and system biology to advance sustainable agriculture, food security, capacity building, and international collaboration, promoting technology acceleration and deployment. Floor is yours because you have a lot to share with us. Your institute, ICGEB, sits a unique intersection where scientific research meets practical application in the field. Can you share with us how it works in the food and in the agricultural space? What research feels most relevant for circular economy in African coffee right now? And how you approach that journey from lab to farm and vice versa. Over to you, Fernando. Obrigada.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. And also, I would like to thank the colleagues because they paved the way. They made my life way easier because they come with examples. They really feel the pain of the growers. And I think that's very important when you think about any technology that you'd like to deploy in the field. Indeed, ICGB works in the intersection between science, technology transfer, and their application. And our rule is to transform research in practical solutions. And today I would like to share a little bit of our work in Africa regarding this topic. Okay, who you are? For those who don't know, ICGB, we are a leading institution, organization on research, training, and technology transfer in life science and biotechnology. And we have a strong root in agriculture as well. We are based in Trieste, Italy, and we have also 2 components, one in South Africa and another one in India, New Delhi. And we have 69 member states, which 24 of them, they are in Africa and the crop growers. Next one, please. Okay, it was mentioned before, and I totally agree. Africa does not have a problem of innovation because research exists, entrepreneurs they exist, and the market is out there as well. The problem is not only in Africa. I think when you're a scientist, you think about science. The problem is the translation, how you make that technology available to the end users, okay? And next slide, please. Okay. What is needed to move from potential to impact? Technology translation, as I said before. We need technology innovation. We need to validate it, accelerate, do acceleration, and go to the market. Okay, but that's not straightforward. If you see in the bottom of my, I don't know if I can have a pointer. Uh, can you see the pane?
Unfortunately not.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's not a problem. But if you see in the bottom of my slide, uh, the biggest problem is to identify the problem or the solution to develop the technology. And here is where almost all technologies die because they must to be linked to the needs in the field. Because if you can develop a very interesting technology, but if it doesn't have an application in the field, it's going to fail, okay? And where ICGB can help, ICGB can help identify what is the problem and how to solve it. And then once you have the problem well defined, we can work on the technology and then we can move to validation, support, with the entrepreneurs, cooperatives. We can connect with regulatory bodies as well to deregulate that technology, and then we can go to the market. But what happens often is we have a really strong technology, but the developer, they forget that that technology might be regulated, and we need to work on regulatory part of that technology to make it able to go to the market. Without it, they are not going to be able to put that technology in the market. Okay, next, please. And where ICGB works, we work in the middle, and we are intermediates from lab to the market. ICGB helps move technology through the missing middle. If you look at the left side on the top of my slide, you can see a chart which is called Valley of Death, because this is all technologies, they must overcome that valley before it become a reality, okay? And there is a part of the basic research, and then we move to an applied research, and I cannot see very well here. Just a minute. Okay. Okay. Then technology development, product development, and then business development. Once we reach the part where the technology was developed, the technology was validated, the product is ready to move to the market. So then that technology that was developed, it starts to become profitable. And what we do is, because SMEs, they need an ecosystem that reduce that friction between labs, regulators, investors, users, and market. Okay. And the research, as I said, it exists. We need to translate it to be able to go to the market, and the entrepreneurs alone, they cannot do it. And then what we do, we help the developers, we scout the technology with potential, we adapt to see if we have local fit, we validate it, we go to the field, greenhouse, quality check, we de-risk that technology, and then we accelerate it. And which are the mechanisms that ICGB use for make the technologies bring it from the initial stage to the market? We scout those technologies through CRPs. CRPs are collaborative research projects that they are basically grants and fellowships. We also give to our partners technical and regulatory affairs support as well. We help them to validate the technologies, to go to the lab, to the field. We develop protocols, methodologies, SOPs, how to evaluate that technology, and we make partnerships between research and business, because what we have learned is that even if we have a good technology, if we don't have an environment or a business partner that can take that technology from the hands of the entrepreneur or help them somehow to establish their business, that technology is going to get stuck. And then we can accelerate and go to a pre-commercialization. One of the examples is the BINOC project, which is the bioinoculants for food security in Africa. In that project, which is funded by the Piano Mattei, we have different categories. We have from discovery to scale up. And I choose one example of those projects to really illustrate, because this is a very translational project, and it's very a showcase where really describes technology that was come from an idea and now it's working in the market, and can be something that can also be integrated to the coffee system. The project is the BioBoost, is inset valorization. Inset is looks like banana. It's a fake banana, but instead the fruits, it produces a tuber. It's called corm, and from that corm, you can get the raw material for the production of flour. You can use it as a substitute to wheat. Corn is gluten-free, nutrient-dense, okay? Also, this crop is climate resilient. In Ethiopia, for example, is a staple food for over 25 million people. There is some medicinal and cultural value as well, and it's high yielding. And last week, I was in Nairobi, and I took a picture of an insect plant at one research station, and I asked about that plant, and they told me this is only ornamental, but in Ethiopia, it's a high value crop for food security. And what was the problem that needed to be solved with insect? First, it was very labor intense. The woman took like over up to 8 hours to scrape the corn to get the raw material. After that, they need to do the fermentation of that raw material for 60 days. And then the post-harvest loss was up to 45%. What was done? A professor from Arba Mint, he developed a set of machines that allowed them to process those plants in less than 1 hour. It also allowed them to use the steam that was wasted. They can take out the raw material, and what is left is fiber. And I will show how they are using that fiber afterwards. And the fermentation that took 2 to 3 months, now they can do it in 7 days. And also now they are producing a flour, cocoa flour, which is gluten-free, very nutrient-rich, and they can be used for baking, making cooks. We are working on pasta, Rus, which is ready-to-use solid food. There is and milk. There is many application for that plant, and also they are doing handcraft articles as well, tablecloth, paper bags made out of insect. And why I'm talking about insect? Because I think we need to come up with technologies, but also we need to think about the field, the application of those technologies in the field, and how we can increase the resilience of our crops. How can we increase the stability of the production? Because coffee doesn't like to be open in the field. It's a plant that doesn't like a lot of sun. And if you have an agroforest system, you can provide the shade that will allow the plants to grow without stress. With that agroforest system, as I showed, you can have extra source of money because it's a insect, it's a perennial. You can harvest any time of the year. You can make flour. You can use as a staple food as well. They call it a micho. They can go, they can harvest, and they can make food. And with that excess, they can, because as was mentioned before, coffee is a seasonal crop. In between the seasons, between the harvest, you need to generate money. And how you can generate money is using a way, and I think agroforest could be a technology, could be a system that can be used to increase. And also we can put, as mentioned before, avocados, macadamia. For the same area, you can have a diversification of crops that will increase the profit of the grower. They will have money whenever they need. And also, we are going to increase the resilience of the crop to extremes events like heat, drought, stress. And okay, of course, between everything, we can work with biofertilizers, we can work with insecticides because it's a system, okay? We need to think about different business, about startups, but we are talking about coffee. We need to produce coffee with quality and with stability. And integrating different management systems, we are able to do that. Thank you.
Thanks.
This was what I had to share.
Thanks a lot for sharing all of this and very inspiring what you're doing in Ethiopia. And you already addressed a lot of the issues you concluded. I must say, what was discussed in this intense session. Let me just pose you a very brief question because we are running out of time. Just if you can address it in 2 minutes, a very sharp question. What, in your view, is the ICGEB structure, technology transfer process, able to make innovation actionable? So from early stage business in the coffee sector to scale.
Okay. We can work with byproducts, okay? We can make biofertilizers. This is one topic. I think soil health, it's key, okay? And soil management, microbiome, it's some technology that it's really powerful. And we need, once we thinking about microbiome, we need to thinking about soil conservation as well. And once we are doing soil conservation, we are managing the amount of water that is lost, and then we can manage drought stress, we can reduce heat stress. And I think when we have all the technologies together, coupling with an agroforest system, for example, it's how we should really work, because it's not one technology. I think it's different technologies working together. And the way we do, we go and we walk hand in hand with our partners. They are the developers. We are only the enablers. We help
Thanks a
them
lot.
to bring the idea to the market.
Thanks a lot, Fernando. Sorry that we are really running out of time. And I want to thank you. I want to thank Catherine, Mariama Wait, ITC, ICO, and all the C4SAC team for hosting this session. And a big, big thank to David, Emmanuel, Sandra, and to you, Fernando. What you have shared today is exactly the kind of grounded cross-sector thinking that the overall conversation needs. And what impressed me the most from today's discussion is that the enabling environment for circular economy in coffee is not something that will emerge on its own, alone. It has to be built through partnership, dialogue, institutions that are willing to open that door. So thanks to Coffee Research Institute, research that travels all the way to farmers, ideas and business builder, through platforms like C4SAC that amplify what is already working on the ground. Kenya is showing that these can be done in practice, and through the network, through C4SAC, UNIDO, let me speak on behalf of my organization, is committed to scaling this lesson, at least in our target countries, so Tanzania, Ethiopia, Malawi, Mozambique, and far beyond. Stay engaged with the global webinar series. Sorry for not having had the time to address all your questions, but this large part of them were addressed in the chat. In the meantime, please stay curious and explore the resource that C4SAC makes available for all of us. And thanks a lot for joining us from across the world. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.